It's your boy Kilo Loco, and we're covering macOS navigation today. We're going to start off by having a couple of views that are going to represent different content in our columns. So we're going to have a user's view, which is going to have a list of data and the details, which we're going to be drilling into. And then we're going to do the same thing for animals view and for food view. And these are just using Swift dummy data, which is a repository that I use to just have dummy data in my project. We're going to need a view that's going to be responsible for managing all of our columns. Let's create a new file called Navigation Manager View. The Navigation Manager View is going to handle our navigation inside the columns for us in our macOS app. So let's go ahead and add a sidebar visibility property. This will manage how the columns will be displayed when the app is started up. Then let's go ahead and create a new enum that is going to list out the different types of tabs that we're going to be able to switch between, the different types of items that we're going to be able to select in the primary sidebar. So we're going to have one for the users, one for the animals, and one for the food. Then we're going to create an instance of our sidebar item, and we'll just set that to users initially, and then we'll be able to toggle between all three of them. We're also going to start using the navigation split view. Now this is the new API that's available for SwiftUI starting in Xcode 14.1 and above. And we are going to be using our column visibility and specifying the sidebar visibility property. Now we're going to use a list just like any other navigation to list out all the cases in sidebar, which is why we are conforming to case iterable and identifiable. And we're going to actually be using the item's raw value, which is why it conforms to string, in order to give it a title. So you'll see here that we have all the cases that are being iterated through, and then we're going to pass that item in, and we're going to actually provide it a navigation link, which will trigger navigation split view to actually update with the item selected. So it will be listing out each of those sidebar items. You select it, and this selection property will actually keep that item highlighted. Now, navigation split view has a second block that we need to implement, which is called detail. Detail is going to be where each of these items are going to lead to, but it really is just representing that second column. So as you can see here, since we have that property that we're switching off of and selecting, we can switch it. We can specify what view should be shown for each case. And this here alone is enough to get something up and running for our macOS app. So if we head back over to our app object and then we actually show the navigation manager view, then we can see this in action. And as you can see, I have the three different sidebar items being listed here. We can switch between them, and we can see a list of all the names if we just scroll down. The next step is to handle actually tapping on one of these items and seeing details about it. So let's go ahead and implement that by going back over to our navigation manager view. And what we need to do is we need to start up here and create a new item that's going to represent selecting an item and passing the selected item through. And we're going to do that by adding an enum. So if we add in this new enum called detail item, then we can make sure that it's hashable. Each of these models from the Swift dummy data package are hashable, which is why we're able to pass them here as associated values. And you can see that we're going to pass in a specified user, animal, or food. Now that we have this detail item, we can actually implement having a property to store that selected item. So we'll have a selected user, selected animal, selected food, so on and so forth. And what we need to do is we need to make sure that we update our content views so that they can actually bind to the selected item inside the view itself. So now we'll update the user view to have a selected user, and that's going to be a binding user. And then we want to also have the selection property on our list. Again, this is going to make sure that the selected item stays highlighted. And then we just simply need to update the text to a navigation link, and we'll pass in the value that we're selecting, which will then communicate that to the selected user binding. And we're going to just do the same thing for animals, and we're going to do the same thing for the food. Once we have that implemented, head back over to the navigation manager view, and we need to actually be able to switch over each of these properties and find out which one is actually selected. So we could add in a new property called selected detail item, because we need to have each of these items mapped to one of these detail items. Once we have this computed property, which will determine which item is selected, if any, we can go ahead and make sure that we're observing whenever a different sidebar item is selected that each of these properties are updated till nil, so that we're not carrying over data, because as you can see, we're using an if statement, and if user was ever selected, none of this code below will ever be ran. Moving forward, we also need to update our users view, animals view, and food view to represent the selected values. So we'll pass those in there. And now we're essentially ready to actually see the details. Now what we need to do is we need to update this detail block to actually become a content block. And we're going to have the details down here. So we'll put the details down here, and this is going to manage the selected detail item. And we're going to change this to content. So now we have these 3 rows, or these 3 layers or blocks. One will specify the sidebar. The middle block will specify the content, which is going to be the same list of users as before. And then the last block will be the details, whatever we selected. And as you can see, we're just specifying what view should be shown. And we're doing that based off of the selected detail item. We'll switch over each of those cases, and then we will pass in the specified model into the correct view. So whenever we select user, it will go into a user details view, animal, food, same thing. Build and run, and you should see the final product. All right, here we go. We have our app up and running. And as you can see, if we select Kyle, you can see what our detail view is supposed to show. We go down to animals, and we choose lion, hello lion, and same thing for food. We go to eggplant, hello eggplant. Ooh, that looks extra happy. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, make sure you're subscribed, and share it somewhere on social media. You can find the source code and a link to the article in the description below. Be sure you let me know what other videos you want covered, and I'll try my best to get that content out to you. Now go out there and keep coding passionately.